Well, this morning, as we go through the service, there's going to be some parts where I'm going to need some help. There'll be parts where I'm going to ask questions, and I'm not trying to be rhetorical. You can answer those questions. And so, also just a reminder, if you have not received one of these, we do have some of these left to take notes if you'd like. But before we start, I might ask, and so you kids, you can answer this question as well as anybody who's ever been a kid. Okay? Has everybody here been a kid before? Okay. So first question is, what makes a good mother? What makes a good mother? Yes, Tristan? Being nice to you. That's a good mom. Nice moms are really good. Yeah. Anything else? So all they need just to be nice? A good teaching. Yeah, there's lots of things that a mom teaches her kids. So good teaching is helpful. They need to be a good mom, yes. What makes them good though? Love. Yes. Love. Listening without judgment. Yeah, a mom who can listen to her kids. It's a wonderful thing. An open opportunity for the kids to come and talk. Anything else? Yep. Has an open heart. Yes. Yeah. So my next question is what do you like or love about your mom? Right? Miss Tristan? She's not that mean. She's not mean. That's really good. I'm glad. What do you love about your mom? Any thoughts? Oh, yeah, Abby? Kind and thoughtful. That's nice. Going once, going twice. Anything else somebody enjoy about our mom? Yes. She prays for you. What a wonderful gift that a mom can do, praying for you, and that moms can do is they pray for their kids. That's wonderful. I'm sure there are many things that we appreciate about our moms that we benefited from. Even some of the hard things actually helped make us better people. I noticed no one said it was great when my parents or when my mom punished me. No one said, I just love it when my parents punish me because that makes me such a good, responsible adult now. So there are even things that we went through that were difficult at the time, but actually has built us up. And so in our story today, we have a mom who is loving, right? She is caring about her kids. I mean, if she didn't care about her kids, you're like, oh yeah, go ahead, you can go into slavery. That wouldn't be a very good mom just to be happy for her kids to go into slavery, to be slaves, to serve somebody else. And so, in our story, as we, I guess the clicker's over there. Yep, thanks, Al. So we're going to be looking at the story. There's some good pictures on the screen to help you understand it. For those of us who are like pictures, I love pictures, right? So let's read the first verse there. The wife of a man of the company of prophets cried out to Elisha. So she is had a husband who was of a group of prophets that were training and learning from Elisha, but he has passed away. So she's a widow. She doesn't have a husband anymore. It says, your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. So he was someone who followed after God. He loved God and served him. But now his creditor, so they owed money to somebody, whether it was a mortgage or for whatever reason, they had a creditor that had lent them money, and now he's coming to take my two boys as his slaves. Right? Luckily, in Australia, that doesn't happen. Right? Our kids don't get put into slavery to pay our debts. But at this time, as a widow, usually the men were the main ones who had the capacity in that culture to earn income and pay back. And so, with the loss of her husband, what gave her put her in a position where she couldn't pay that back. And so, very not very good thing that's happening. But as I said, this mom is loving and caring, and so she cares about her kids. So not just the mothers, but all of us, we all probably find ourselves from time to time in difficult situations. Anybody ever found yourself in a difficult situation? Yeah, yeah, we all have. And so she's found it very difficult. It's affecting her loved ones. And we just look at that. So here, she's not very happy right now, is she? Looks a bit sad. This is the mean creditor that's come to take her sons away if she can't pay. All right, so what does she do? She goes to the prophet Elisha. And so Elisha was a man of God. God was with him, and she was hoping that he would help. So at this point of the story, how do you think she might have hoped he helped? Giving her money, right? Right? So he could have given her money. He was someone of a bit of authority. People looked up to him. He could have just gone and talked to the creditor as well and said, hey, look, I really think you should forgive her of that debt. Right? But is that how God fixed that story? I know in my life there have been times where I prayed to God and wanted God to fix something a certain way. And it didn't always happen the way I wanted. But it happened the way that he knew was best. So the mother was going through that difficult time. Just for clarity, a difficult time, if we go through difficult times, it doesn't mean that God has left us. I know sometimes there's this idea that when life is just wonderful and I'm, floating on clouds and everything's great, God's with me, and then as soon as something bad happens, oh, God's left me. That's not the case. The Bible tells us about difficult times that we go through, and somehow God uses that to shape us and mold us. But just because we're going through a difficult time, like this mom lost her husband, now she's potentially losing her kids, it doesn't mean that God has left her. God was still looking after her. She did something proactive. She went and got help. All right. I think there is a lot of times where we think, well, we can just try to handle things on our own. But she recognized it wasn't something she should handle on her own. She went and got help. She went to Elisha the prophet, who she thought might be able to help her. But you and I, we can go to people to get help. So when things are hard for us, we have the capacity to go and get help from others. Just ask that question. Who in your life do you have that can help you? Right? I don't know about you, but one of the things that comes to my mind is my mom, my dad, my parents. These are people I can go to. So I left a little spot on the bottom who can support you. Maybe you want to write someone down, whether it's a friend, whether it's a spouse, whether it's some other family member. Who can we go to get support? Right? Because I guarantee that you have people all around you that if you would open up and let people know that you needed some support, that you would have people help you and support you. Right? So we don't have to do things on our own. So this mom, she went and got support from Elisha. Just the specific idea of getting help from a believer, or going straight to God. Right? We can pray straight to Him when we need help, when we have things that aren't going the way we want them to go. We have these difficult things. And so just that idea, there's lots of other people can help, some great counselors or psychiatrists who might be able to help us with some ways. But just there's something about whether finding those people of a profession like that who are a Christian and a believer that can really help understand and pull in the idea of trusting God and allowing Him to help us. Let's continue our story. So Elisha's first response is, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." So I've got my jar of olive oil, right? That was about as small as I could find. Won't put it too close to the fire. Right. Someone can stand near the fire hose over there, and so we have all she has is a small jar of olive oil. Who likes olive oil? I like it, just not. So we have this small jar of olive oil, and so here we'll go to our pictures. The picture doesn't look very small, right? So pretend that that's smaller. Right? So that's quite a big jar of olive oil. You could fry lots of fish with that. So she has a jar of olive oil. And as we think through that, she didn't have nothing, right? I don't know, sometimes as a parent, and I can't speak on behalf of others, but I've heard mothers repeat this, sometimes it feels like, and it's the same with fathers, that we don't have what we need at times to make the right choice and the wisdom that we need, or things are difficult, we can struggle. And it's not just mothers, it's not just fathers, that's all of us. And it's not just raising our kids, there's all bits of life where we just feel inadequate. Anybody here ever felt inadequate to do something or to lead or to, yeah, I think that's the feeling we've all experienced. But this widow, well, she was in difficulty. She didn't have nothing. And God has given all of us things that are helpful inside. We don't have nothing, and we also have, when we don't have enough, there's times we don't have enough, He is there to help supply the need. So God used something that she already had. I think many times when we go to God and we pray and ask for help, there's us usually in my own life, I've noticed there's things He's already given me that can be used to help in that situation, whether it's an experience, whether it's people He's put in my life, whether it's abilities that He's given me. There's something that is there that can be used. It just may not be quite enough. And the good thing is that God has already given you the start of what you need, but He is there um, to fill in what's lacking, to help meet those needs in a supernatural way, like what we're going to see a miracle. All right, so continue the story. Elijah said to go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few, and go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put to one side. Uh, I don't know if you noticed, but there are jars all throughout the auditorium in here. Is there anyone here that didn't notice? Yep. So if you have a jar underneath you, can you pick it up? And I need some helpers to help collect all those jars. So if you can find a jar, can you bring it up over here? If you've got a jar, and bring up the jars. Yep, put it here. Okay, thank you. Bring in all the jars. Wonderful. Look at all these jars. Okay. So we have all these jars. And the mother had one jar of olive oil. All right. Do you think I could pour this and fill all those jars up? No, it's impossible. So as I was thinking about this, how to do this, my brilliant idea was to get a water hose that went out, somehow managed to go up through my pants, out my sleeve, with a little nozzle that I could turn on, and so that I could fill up all these jars. Yeah, it didn't happen. So we're gonna have to use our imagination. Oh, we got another jar coming up. Wonderful. And so Elisha told her to collect all the jars from all over the community. All right? And as many jars as came, he was saying that the oil would fill up. And so I won't really pour it because I don't want to clean another jar out. But he used this, or she used this, and she poured in all the jars and filled them all up. Would that be a lot of olive oil? Yeah. Yeah. And do you think if we went to door to all of the town, do you think we get even more containers? Yeah. So as long as those jars were there, she was able to pour that oil in, right? So let's make sure we follow through. So with what we're doing, here she is. She gets the jars. They collect all the jars in the town. Some really big ones. So those are the two boys. They look happy. Something's happening. Yes, Tristan.
Maybe she also got some oil from the people. Maybe that's why she has
Maybe, but that's a good question. Elisha told her to get empty jars, right? So all the jars that came were empty. You can kind of look in, they can hold them sideways without pouring anything out. So all the jars were empty, all right? Okay, so she received the advice that seemed a bit strange. Does that seem like a strange thing to do? It seems strange to me. Like I said earlier, like what you guys said was what I thought. Why didn't Elisha just, give her some money? Or why didn't Elisha just go to the person and say, hey, give her a break. She loves her kids, and the Lord will bless you if you forgive that debt. That's not what happened. So she received this strange advice. God was doing something that was different than the way she was thinking. And I don't know, many times when I look at my own life, I think that same thing. God's been at work, but it's been different than the way I thought, different than the way I would want. And so here she received this strange advice. God doesn't always work the same way that we think, right? Um, it just doesn't happen that way. God is bigger, smarter, more intelligent, more knowing than me. So my thoughts are very limited by me, and God is bigger than that. And I just encourage you, don't miss what God is doing, but not by not recognizing how He is at work. Sometimes He works different than the way we want. Sometimes He uses a little bit of olive oil to fill a bunch of jars to help this widow out. Right? So she did what she said, or what he said. She went, collected all these jars. She got that jar. She began to pour into the jars, and that little jar stayed full all the way until every last one of those was filled. And it says as soon as the last jar, or as soon as there was no jars left, that the oil stopped flowing. It's interesting. If she had collected more jars, it would have just kept going until all those jars were filled and met exactly the need that was there with all those jars. So here they are with all the jars, pouring oil into all the jars, filling them all up. So she listened to what he said. She took his advice, had her sons do what they did. They followed it, and God miraculously provided. As she was faithful, as she followed the advice or the recommendation of what this man of God said, God miraculously provided. And in our lives, I bet if we ask people to come up and share, we'd have multiple times where God miraculously provided. And when I say miraculous, it doesn't always mean that oil is, expanded to where it is, but it is a time where God worked in a situation, comforted. I miraculous anytime that His presence is with me and that He supports me, comforts me in those times. And when He answers our prayers, all of these things that God provides miraculously. There is a name of God. So God has multiple names, but there's one, Jehovah Jireh. And it means the Lord will provide. And so this comes from Genesis 22. And if you remember the story, there was a man named Abraham, and Abraham was very old, and he didn't have a kid, and God had promised him a kid. And finally, in his old age, God gave him a son named Isaac. When Isaac was still a young man or young boy, God asked Abraham to sacrifice him, right? To show show Abraham was going to say, who do you trust more, me or yourself? And God took Isaac up, and did he have to sacrifice Isaac? No. The Lord provided a ram with his horns stuck in a bush. And so the name Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide, provided that sacrifice so that Isaac survived and lived. God wasn't really going to ask us to take a life like that. It was a time of testing for Abraham. He provided. God provided for this widow. God provided a bunch of olive oil. How has God provided for you? So she went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left. So she took the oil, she sold the oil, right? Here's the grumpy old man, grumpy creditor. She paid him back so he could have his debt would be paid. So she sold the oil, and not only was able to pay her debts, but had some left to live on. Right? So she sold it all, she paid her debt, and Elisha said, you can live on what is left. So God doesn't only just meet our needs, but He blesses us. He met that need of doing the creditor. He provided enough income so that way she could pay off the creditor. But not only did that happen, He blessed her with enough to live on after that. There should be one more slide on there. Let me see if it's on. No. The last one on there is God is a God of abundance. God is a God of abundance. If you're writing that down on your sheet, God is a God of abundance. He is a God that meets the need and blesses us as well. Just a little note. Didier, I don't know how you pronounce that name. Martin is the one who has provided these images for free. But as we conclude, do we go to God and other believers when we need help? Are we willing to involve others when we need that support? And again, I mentioned earlier, I know I can always go to my mom, I can always go to my dad, my parents, there's people I can go to. I've got many great friends. Obviously, Beck and I go to each other to support each other and help each other. But do we have those people we can go to? And are we willing to be vulnerable and ask for help when we need it? Right? Sometimes I'm a man, I don't need help from anybody. That's if that was true, there would only be Adam around, right? They would have never created Eve. It's not good for man to be alone. We still, even men, need help and support. And so we do need those people. We need people in our lives to help us, and we need that willingness to go. Do we trust God to help us? When we're praying, we know He's there to help us. When we're going through that difficult time, we trust. The moment in our story, she trusted the word of Elisha, who is the man of God, who came to speak, to share that advice, how God was going to meet her need. And she took it, she trusted that, and she just, what abundance has God given you? When you look back at your life, how has He blessed you? How has He looked over you? And to be grateful through those things. God is a God of abundance. He's a God who cares about what we're going through. He knows there are times where we feel inadequate. He has gifted you and blessed you with things in your life to help you. And then He is there to make up the shortfall, to help you in the times where we feel like we are falling short. So that's for moms as you try to be a mom and raise kids, or even be a grandparent and help raise the kids. And the thing is you're always a parent. Just because the kids stop living at your house and you kick them out or they leave, what's one of the two, doesn't mean that you stop being a parent. You're always a parent when you have kids, and you raise them and help them learn and grow. And so God has gifted you, moms. He's given you what you need, and what you lack, He is there to help support you. For all of us as we go through those difficult times, He is there, and not just to help us meet our needs, but He's a God of abundance to bless us and help us. So we as a church, we've started doing something called One Thing. And so on the back of your sheet, there's a little spot where you can write things down. And how this works, how we do it is, as you think back to what we've just been talking about, this example, this mother and her two sons, and the story of how God provided. What's one thing that stood out to you? One thing that maybe you learned, or one question you have? And so we just want to give you a moment to think about that. And then what we do is after we think about it, we just take some time just to tell it to the person next to you. And so you can share, and then we'll take turns sharing. So as you just think through that, you might want to pray, say, God, what do you have to say to me? Or maybe there's already something in your head that is there from that. So we'll just give you a little bit of time to do that.